Good morning, agents, and welcome to another daily episode of Targeted Loot today for Thursday, December 3rd. So in this series, we cover a lot from the Targeted Loot map, Dark Zone exclusives you can farm for, highlights for the weekly vendor resets, build and farming suggestions, and much more. I'm Shadow Gaming, and if you enjoyed this video, consider pressing the subscribe and like buttons below, and remember to comment below as well if you have any questions. Otherwise, let's get this video started. Alright guys, so starting off with the Dark Zone highlights, and the vendor reset highlights, which are always in the bottom left overlay. The only things I'd really recommend probably is over here at the theater, there's the Surge with Perfect Spike. So that's a pretty good rifle for your, skill builds that might be worth just buying instead of farming for. And otherwise over here at the campus, you can pick up the Forge holster. That gives 50% extra shield health, so that also might be worth it for you shield build users. Alright guys, and now with the backpack targeted loot in Dark Zone West starting off, now there's 4 different Dark Zone exclusive backpacks you could farm for, and that is the Devil's Due with Perfect Clutch, the Gift with Perfect Vigilance, the Matador with Perfect Adrenaline Rush, and the Liquid Engineer backpack with Perfect Bloodsucker. I would highly recommend picking up all of them except for the Devil's Due. That one isn't really that much worth it, but the other 3 are highly worth farming for. And otherwise, in the Dark Zone South and the Dark Zone East, we got 2 gear sets that are, in their own respects, really worth it, but they're not worth farming for in the Dark Zones. I would wait for True Patriot and Hardwire to go into the, outside of the Dark Zone, the Light Zone. Alright, agents, now we're over here on the north side, targeted loot highlights, and starting off with the invaded missions, it's Camp White Oak, Bank HQ, as well as DCD headquarters, and then, of course, Roosevelt Island and Tidal Basin Stronghold as the last strongholds. As far as the targeted loot goes, we got Negotiator's Dilemma at Camp White Oak. Now, I'll put my double LMG build in the top right, like I always do when I mention a build usually. Now, that's 4 pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma, Grupo Sombro gloves, and the Coyote's mask. And I always run the Pestilence with a Neg EV LMG, and it's really fun. It's crowd control. It's a great DPS set, so I always suggest LMGs with it. Next up, we got Hana Yu at Coney Island Amusement Park. Now, that's the Force Multiplier backpack with Perfect Combined Arms. I always run this on any skill damage build. Every 3 seconds you land a shot, you instantly get that 30% skill damage applied to all your skills. It's highly worth always running with skill haste and skill damage. And I almost skipped over this one, but we got masks today at Coney Island Ballpark. Now, there's 2 exotic masks you can farm for. The Coyote's mask, that's for DPS builds, and Vial mask for status effect and skill damage builds. And then lastly, we do have a named one that I recommend. That's the Punch Drunk mask that gives you 20% headshot damage for an all high-end headshot damage build. But I recommend farming Douglas and Harding if that's available instead of masks, as you always want to farm the brand, not the type. Next up, we got holsters at Manning National Zoo. There's 2 exotic holsters you could farm for. The Imperial Dynasty for skill damage and status effects. And then, of course, the Dodge City holster for DPS builds, like a pistol headshot build or just a headshot build in general. Otherwise, you can farm for the Forge named holster with that 50% extra shield health. A whole extra skill tier towards your shields is worth it for all shield build users, but I personally never use shields. And then, of course, Kinley College is closed, and the Summit, you can pick your own targeted loot. So let's go check out what we got on the west side now. Alright, agents, now we're over here on the west side, targeted loot highlights, and starting off with gear sets, we got Aces and 8s at West End. So Aces and 8s is a really good headshot damage build. You want to mix 3 pieces of Aces and 8s with 2 pieces of Aralda Holding and a Chain Killer chest piece with Perfect Headhunter on it. And of course, with the Aralda backpack, you want Vigilance or Composure, and that's usually going to get you over 20 million a headshot with the Mantis, and it's really worth running in heroic and legendary content. Next up, we got Strikers at Federal Emergency Bunker. Like I always tell you guys, 3 pieces for that extra rate of fire and weapon handling, but otherwise I never recommend going beyond that, and I only use that for a Merciless as well, nothing really else. And then, of course, we got Ongoing Directive at Downtown West. This is a bleed damage build, and remember that TU12 does drop December 8th, and from what I know, they're fixing the System Aggravator talent that gives you 30% extra amplified damage on status-affected enemies. So watch out for that and replace the backpack with Wicked with the 4-piece Ongoing Directive and Ridgeway's Pride chest piece. So that's probably going to be the way to fix that. Otherwise, the best way to run it is with the Eclipse Protocol backpack. And then speaking of Eclipse Protocol, we have it at Bank HQ today. Now remember, Eclipse Protocol is a fire damage build and status effect build, so I always run 4 pieces with the Imperial Dynasty holster and then 1 piece of Golon gear. Now you can run the Vial Mask with it as well, and if you want to increase the damage of that debuff from the Vial Mask, you can run the Demolitionist spec because it increases the damage of your Concussion Grenade, which increases the damage of the Vial Mask's debuff. Next up, we got Future Initiative, a Constitutional Hall. Now, this is a great healer set, and I actually run 2 different versions of this build. One from the Iron Horse raid, because, of course, the chest and backpack are raid exclusive. And then I have another one with an Alp Summit chest piece with Empathetic Resolve, and I believe a second Alp Summit backpack with Safeguard. Now, that's the best way to run it if you do not have the Future Initiative chest or backpack. Alright guys, now moving on to the normal targeted loot, we got light machine guns over here at Potomac Event Center. So there's 2 exotics you can farm for, the Bullet King and the Pestilence. I highly recommend the Pestilence. While the Bullet King you never have to reload, it is a much weaker weapon than the Pestilence. And then of course you have multiple named LMGs. My favorites would be the Carnage with Perfect Sadist to put on that ongoing directive bleed build. And then of course you got the new reliable Perfectly Optimized. But the Good Times is a pretty good one. And the Sleipnir I think has Perfect Frenzy, which is really good, especially if you mix it with 3-piece strikers. And like I was saying with Douglas and Harding, if you want that punch drunk mask with 20% headshot damage, go ahead and hit up Foggy Bottom today. That would be a better choice than farming over here for masks. And the last couple we got down here is Lincoln Memorial. Remember, one of the fastest missions in the game, 3 bosses at the end. You can destroy this mission under 9 minutes solo. You can get the BTSU gloves. Those are the exotic gloves you can pick up from here. And then, of course, you can also get the Contractor's Gloves with 8% damage to armor. I highly recommend farming over here, Jefferson Plaza, Petrov. Like I say, farm the brand, not the type, and it's much easier to get. Otherwise, we got knee pads over here at Tidal Basin Stronghold. There's 2 exotics you can pick up, the Ninja Bike Messenger knee pads for your DPS builds, and then Sawyer's knee pads. I usually put on a tank build. Otherwise, you can put on DPS build, but every second that you move, it just kind of starts resetting all your damage. And then, of course, you can also pick up the Fox's Prayer knee pads. That's 8% damage to targets out of cover. Multiplicative damage mixed with 10% on your weapon is insane amounts of damage. But what I recommend is farming Overlord at Jefferson Trade Center today for those Fox's Prayer. And then, of course, the last 2, you got chest pieces at DARPA Research Labs. There's 2 exotics, Tardigrade and Ridgeway's Pride. The Tardigrade you could straight up farm for. And then the Ridgeway's Pride, you do need to complete the project that you get from Floor 100 on Summit. But of course, like people like me who have already completed it can drop the Ridgeway's Pride if it drops for them for you, if you ask nicely, I guess. And then of course, that would complete your project, I believe. If you know that, please comment in the comment section below as well. As far as I know, I've dropped it for one person, but I don't know if that completes the project. It does allow them to use it though. And then lastly, we got MMRs at the Pentagon. So you can get the Mantis and the Nemesis, but the Nemesis is a quest-only exotic, so you need to get the Grand Washington Hotel Puck's Blueprint first before you actually farm for it. Otherwise, the best named ones I'd recommend is the White Death and Ekim's Longstick with Perfect Ranger. Those are probably the only MMRs worth farming for. Alright, let's go check out now what we got on the east side. Alright, agents. Now over here on the east side, we only got a few gear sets. So starting off with those, we got Hunter's Fury at District Union Arena. Now, this is an SMG and shotgun damage build, and it's very, very dependent on armor and health on kill. So what I would recommend is my 4-piece Hunter's Fury, Death Grip gloves, and then of course you can mix that with the Memento. I'll put that in the top right card as well. Now, you want to usually run 3 armor cores, 4 red, and 1 skill tier with the Memento, and this just shreds through heroic content solo. So this is probably my favorite build to put together, and it probably still will be in TU12, even with the skill damage meta. Next up, we got Tip of the Spear at Federal Triangle. I never recommend this. Sorry if anyone else might use it. I just never do. It just increases specialization weapon damage, and it used to be really good during the Dark Hours raid and some legendary missions. But then after many title updates, I just never used it again, and I just don't ever use it. But if you do, comment in the comment section below, please, and let me know what build you use with Tip of the Spear. Next up, we got regular targeted loot. So we got SMGs at Grand Washington Hotel. So SMGs, you got 3 exotics, the Lady Death, of course the Backfire new exotic SMG, and then the Chatterbox, which I'll put a guide in the top right card if you don't have it yet, since it is a quest only item. It's a quick 5-minute video to show you exactly how to get it in a couple hours. Otherwise, you could just farm for the exotic straight up SMG targeted loot. And then, of course, the Dark Winter and the Apartment are Dark Zone exclusives, so keep that in mind. SMGs need to be targeted loot in the Dark Zone, although you can get them from season reward caches, named item caches, and even these projects up here where it says that you get a named item with them. That's also a place where they can drop, but they can never drop from an NPC unless it's inside the Dark Zone. Alright, agents, next up in Judiciary Square, we got Assault Rifle. So what you want to farm for is the exotic Chameleon Assault Rifle, while the Eagle Bearer Assault Rifle is exclusive to the raid for Dark Hours still. The Assault Rifle that isn't exclusive would be the Chameleon, and it's really powerful with my True Patriot build, which is 4 pieces of True Patriot, A Sokolov chest piece with Intimidate and the Memento backpack, but since you're running the Chameleon and its assault rifle, switch that chest piece to Fenris and it shreds through content solo heroic as well as in group as well. And then of course for the named ARs, you're going to want to get the Mechanical Animal Future Perfection. I would say the Maniac named Military AKM, which I believe might be a Dark Zone exclusive, but I've gotten it from Target Loot Rewards. And then of course the Burnout named FAMAS is my favorite with Focus and the Perfect Vigilance backpack talent. I have a build on that as well. It's a TU-10 one, I think. And then for the best weapon classes for the best assault rifle weapons in their class would be the FAMAS, the Military AKM, the Carbine 7, the Police M4. Next up, we got Providence Defense, the Viewpoint Museum. So you can farm the Sacrifice, the Perfect Glass Cannon, amplifying all damage you do by 30%, but also all incoming damage that you get by 60%. That's a huge risk reward factor, and I usually run Intimidate or Obliterate, but some people still choose to run this. And remember, this works on skill builds as well. Last couple we got is Rifle Targeted Loot in East Mall. Now, a heads up to everyone that usually asks me this question, the Harmony with Perfect In Sync is a Dark Zone exclusive, like I think I stated yesterday. But of course, there is a couple of named rifles you can get outside of the Dark Zone, and that's the Surge with Perfect Spike, and then of course the Baker's Dozen with Perfect Lucky Shot. And both of those are pretty worth farming for, and some people overlook Perfect Spike. It's actually pretty dang good. Otherwise, you can get the Merciless and the Diamondback. Both of those exotics are somewhat worth it, depending on what build you want to use them for. And then of course, the best rifle damage talents is Boomerang, Rifleman, and Ranger. I don't really like Lucky Shot, as fun as it is. I prefer more damage over more ammo. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'd recommend. Of course, Sokolov at Air and Space. You know, I always recommend Obliterate and Intimidate on the chest pieces, and Adrenaline Rush or Vigilance on the backpack pieces for your Sokolov DPS builds. But otherwise, you guys probably know what to farm for here, so let's go check out what we got in New York City now. Alright, agents, so lastly, we're over here at New York City. Targeted Loot highlights. Now, starting off with gear sets, we got Foundry at 2 Bridges. Now, I still haven't gotten around to trying out that DPS hybrid I keep telling you guys about. Now, it would be rolling all weapon core damage on the Foundry Bulwark pieces, and then running the Memento backpack, and a Sokolov or Fenris chest piece with probably Intimidate or Obliterate. And I'm kind of interested to see how that would fare up. Otherwise, this is really a tank build that you want to use in legendaries just to soak up damage and take aggro. And then moving on to the regular gear targeted loot, we got Grupo Sombra with Stranded Tinker. So this is 1-piece DPS builds for extra 15% crit hit damage, and 2 pieces for that extra 15% explosives damage would go on an all yellow skill explosive damage build with the turret and of course the Seeker Mines. Now, these are really hard to farm for because they usually roll with like a, skill or weapon core tier, and they never really roll the way they should do, like, a Providence Defense piece usually does. So this is kind of going to be something the optimization station is going to be good for as well. Next up, we got Walker Harrison Co. at Liberty Island. You could farm the Chainkiller chest piece with Perfect Headhunter, and I think a headshot damage build is useless without it. I don't really know any other way to run a headshot damage build because it's just so perfect to chain kill those headshots together with how much damage it gives you. But remember, keep in mind that the Matador with Perfect Adrenaline Rush is a Dark Zone exclusive, so you need to farm that in the Dark Zone today. Next up, we got shotguns at Battery Park. Now, you can farm for the Sweet Dreams exotic shotgun. You can one-hit kill a red and purple bar enemy, and that's usually useful for skill builds. But otherwise, my favorite shotguns in the game is the Mop with 10% armor on kill, the Custom M870, and of course the Marine Super 90. And you want to roll close and personal on those, sometimes in sync. And of course, the Sweet Dreams is usually good for a skill damage build. But yeah, that's basically all I recommend for New York City, guys. Alright, agents, well that was the targeted loot for today. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed my content. If you would like to become a member for support and exclusive perks, you can click the join button below, as well as if you want to pick up some Shadow Gaming merchandise. You can use my Cyber Weekend, promo code. It gives 10% off all merch in the store, and that'll be in the pinned comment below as well. You can support me on alt tech like BitChute, Storyfire, Patreon, Subscribestar, all that good stuff. But really, if you're still watching this video right now to the end, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate when someone watches my content until the end. Thank you. Take care, agents, and be sure to stay tuned for more daily Division 2 content. This is Agent Shadow signing off. I will see you in the next video. Take care, agents.